What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you guys through my team selection for the upcoming Game Week 3. Now I know this is quite early for my team selections. I usually like to release it a little bit closer to the deadline, but just because we have so much news to talk about, there's a couple of talking points I want you guys to cover on earlier on in the week so that you are prepared for that Game Week 3 deadline when it does come around. We also did do an early transfer, so stay tuned for that if you did miss it over on my Twitter at DaveFPL, where I do confirm all my transfers. That's just something I quickly want to talk about, is that when I do announce a transfer on Twitter, it is confirmed. I don't post fake news over on my Twitter page, so everything is confirmed and verified over on there. But that's enough about the Twitter. Let's focus on this video. So sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So this is probably the biggest thing to take out of this video, and the reason why I wanted to release this a little bit earlier on than I usually do with the team selection is that this international break that's on the horizon, it's going to be for the next 2 weeks, is causing quite the dilemma. And the reason why it's causing such a dilemma is that when you do go on international breaks, you're traveling to foreign countries, traveling to countries that are currently in the red zone of the UK travel restrictions. And what that kind of means is that if you do travel to a red zone country and you make your way back to the UK, you have to quarantine for 10 days total before you can return to normal society. So why this is a problem is that if you do take a player like a Mo Salah, if he's going to be traveling to Egypt, which I do think is on the red zone currently, and then he comes back to the UK and wants to play Game Week 4, he can't because he has to quarantine for 10 days. Now, there's a lot of speculation around this. There has been kind of the rumor that because these are elite sportsmen, they're not going to have to be required to quarantine because obviously they are having special conditions surrounding them. So that's one kind of point to take into account. The other point to talk about is that maybe these countries come off the red zone list before the international break, and then they're going to be perfectly fine to travel there and come back, don't have to quarantine for that. But now we do have this kind of amber selection, which is just below the red selection, and if you do travel to an amber country, you don't actually have to quarantine. But now on Wednesday, apparently the UK government is going to implement a couple of new amber countries into the red zone countries, so that's going to just lead to more players having to quarantine when they do get back. And the reason why I want to talk about this is that I want you guys to take this into consideration when you do look at those transfers and also your plans for the upcoming game weeks. My suggestion is probably going to be to take 2 free transfers into the international break, and you'll see that we currently do have 2 free transfers, and we're only looking at using 1 free transfer for this upcoming Game Week 3 so that we can kind of take the news into account. We can make the best informed FPL decisions for our own FPL teams. So throughout the videos this week, the best teams, the ultimate guides, I will be updating you guys constantly as we do get news, so you don't really have to worry about it too much, but I would just keep this in the back of your mind. If you're willing to take a transfer in for maybe a player that's going to have a price rise, just keep it in the back of your mind that this player might not play in Game Week 4 or maybe even Game Week 5. So the current players under threat, just so you guys get a little bit of context, it's mainly the African and then the South American players. There are some European countries that currently do have some restrictions, but I don't think there's as many as there are on the African continent and the South American continent. So please watch out if you guys do own those players. I'm thinking of a Rafinha for Brazil. I'm thinking about players like a Firmino. You've got a Buendia, a Martinez for Argentina. And then you obviously do have Mo Salah and Sadio Mane, those kind of African players, a Ben Rama even, that you guys have to look out for this upcoming Game Week 4 and Game Week 5. But now to go on to something that's more easy to digest, we're going to be going over the Game Week 2 review, and yet again, it was another green arrow for my own team, ending up with 78 points, which takes us just below that top 200k mark. I don't really kind of know if this is a good rank or not at this stage of the season. I usually say around Game Week 10 is usually quite a good criteria to look at your rank and see if it's actually quite a good one. So there's going to be a high variance. If you manage to have one good game week from now to Game Week 10, probably going to boost up the ranks, so I wouldn't worry too much if you guys are kind of sitting below me. I reckon in the upcoming game weeks, there's going to be some nice differentials that you guys can get in. But going over the bench quickly, because that's quite boring, nothing to talk about there. We only have Ayling, who managed to score 1 point on our bench, Foster, Omabad Madeli, and then also Scarlett, not even featuring for their respective teams. So Ayling is our current only bench cover, and that's going to be a little bit of a problem when we do look at our Game Week 3 team selection. So in terms of that Leeds-Everton game, Leeds yet again showing that defensively might not be as assured. I know that they have faced United and Everton, which can be considered to be more of an attacking strong team, so maybe in the upcoming game weeks they can rack up a couple of clean sheets, and then we look at that Leeds defense as a little bit more solid than it currently is. But going on to the rest of the defense, was really happy with the performance. Sanchez from Brighton getting a clean sheet, so his first clean sheet of the season and Brighton's first clean sheet of the season against Watford, so really happy with that. Unfortunately, didn't rack up too many save points there, which can be seen as a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing, it shows that the defense was quite rock solid, but bad thing, he obviously didn't get any extra points, which lead to more bonus points. The rest of the defense, we've got Luke Shaw. Talking about bonus points, don't know how Luke Shaw managed to get 2 bonus points after conceding, but that just shows you that the stats behind the English fullback are really quite powerful, and he managed to get 4 points, which you can maybe say he got a red card. I don't know what a -2 is, maybe an own goal, something like that, but 4 points, I'll take that considering that United did concede. Then going on to the double up, the dangerous double up, I posted a tweet on the weekend saying, name a better duo than Tsimikas and also Trent Alexander-Arnold. So both my fullbacks for Liverpool getting an assist and bonus points. I think Trent got 3 and then also Tsimikas got 2. So kind of sharing the bonus points there, which is perfectly fine because I do have both of them. And then with Tsimikas, a little bit of a goodbye present there. After the Greek international, we'll be probably leaving our squad, or at least leaving the starting lineup, after Robertson had announced today that he's going to be fit to play for Chelsea. So both these two options, great kind of assist that they managed to get. I think that Tsimikas one was a little bit better because they managed to score a header against Burnley, which you don't really see too often. But if you guys did own Diego Jota and Tsimikas as your double up, you'd have been absolutely laughing after that first goal. With Trent, 100% going to be keeping him. Has a tough fixture up next against Chelsea, but we'll talk about him a little bit later on in the team selection. Going on to the midfield department, we're going to get our disappointments off the bat first. Buendia, Gundogan, both of them not returning anything. Buendia, not much to talk about there. Aston Villa overall haven't been too good from an attacking point of view. We kind of only had Danny Ings' wonder goal to kind of save my team from an Aston Villa point of view. But in terms of Gundogan, I wasn't going to sell Gundogan before Norwich if he was going to be back to fitness. Once Pep Guardiola did say that he's going to be back and he is fit, I wasn't going to sell him anyways because I did have an expectation when Kevin De Bruyne was announced that he won't be starting, that probably Gundogan would fill his shoes. And unfortunately, he didn't fill the Belgium shoes pretty much up to my standards and only finished with 2 points to his name. So the rest of the Man City options returned quite well. Grealish, Mahrez, the two kind of most popular City midfielders, both getting a goal. So if you guys did own them, you would have been quite happy, especially Mahrez coming off the bench and then scoring. A little bit disappointing that he didn't end up starting. It's just imagine what Mahrez would have scored if he was on the pitch for the entire 90 minutes, because that Norwich side did not look great after a pretty good performance against Liverpool in game week 1. Now getting onto the better side of the midfield, although the two premiums were actually quite bad as well. Bruno Fernandez only getting a 1-point appearance, but I will talk about these two players in conjunction because after captaining Mo Salah and he ended up scoring offside, then blanking, only getting the 3 points, I honestly thought that Bruno, the B in Bruno, was going to stand for bang, because I honestly thought that Southampton defense didn't look too great, and I thought United would have an absolute field day in that Sunday fixture. But no, that wasn't the case. We had Fernandez getting a yellow card and conceding, and then only ending up with 1 point. So I felt really sorry for those of you guys who did end up captaining Bruno, because it would have been an absolute emotional roller coaster this week after kind of seeing Mo Salah blank, thinking you're going to get a lot of points, and then he ends up only getting a 1-point appearance. So the Mo Salah shirt in the deadline stream actually ended up working. I was pretty much going to retire it after seeing that Mo Salah ended up blanking after wearing it, but now the Mo Salah shirt's going to be back. Every time we captain Mo Salah, I probably will end up wearing it, just because right now I think we can classify it as good luck. The final player in that midfield department is going to be Greenwood. A 10-point appearance, a goal, and maximum bonus points is always going to be welcomed in our team, and he just looks like a great option going forward. In terms of the United attack, seems to be kind of the only player with Paul Pogba that's actually performing, so I really don't see him getting benched in the near future at all. Now going on to our front line, where both of our players ended up returning, we had Danny Ings and then Antonio. Danny Ings, spoke about that wonder goal. Go watch it if you guys haven't. A lovely bicycle kick that he managed to score on the weekend. And then obviously Antonio last night against Leicester, 10-man Leicester, had an absolutely stellar performance. I think he got 2 goals and 1 assist, but you guys can correct me if I'm wrong there. But just a great performance from him. And I think, as I said, Antonio, if he's fit and playing, he always scores FPL points. So relatively good performance. I think this performance could have been a little bit sweeter if we did own Ben Rama, but you know how it is in FPL, can't own every option, but we are going to be trying to correct that in upcoming game week 3. So now going on to our transfer plan, and I kind of alluded to it a little bit in the introduction. I have made a transfer already after the price rises that happened last night. I don't think the price rises kind of pushed me to make this move too much, but I do think they, in the back of my mind, probably made a little bit of an impact. But I do think Ben Rama will rise in price again before game week 3. So if you guys didn't kind of buy him last night, don't really worry about it. You still can get a kind of a price value gain on the West Ham midfielder. So the move I did was I took Gundogan out, Gundo gone, brought in Ben Rama, as I just think with those upcoming 2 fixtures, although Ben Rama might actually not even play in game week 4, that a game week 3 fixture against Crystal Palace is simply just too hard to ignore, and I think West Ham at home have looked simply outstanding, and that's why I had to bring in the Algerian midfielder into my own FPL team. So this is the move that I managed to kind of do last night. I do have another free transfer, but as I mentioned in the introduction, I'm going to probably hold that transfer for that international break that comes up just before game week 4, after game week 3 obviously, and I think that that's going to be quite a good move to do, because I think we're going to get a lot of news, a lot of injuries, a lot of maybe quarantines that players are going to have to do, and with 2 free transfers it's going to be a lot easier to kind of navigate with those uncertainties. So in terms of other moves that I am kind of contemplating, I might take out Tsimikas, bring in another 4.0 option, just because when you do see my bench in the team selection, I practically don't have a bench at all. All 4 of my options on the bench won't play, and that puts me in a little bit of a tough spot in terms of my upcoming team selections. So in terms of Ben Rama, I did mention that he might not play game week 4, and that's obviously because of that international break in the kind of red zone countries. So I would just wait and see maybe before you do nail this move. I probably was a little bit premature with this, but I just saw him rising in price, and I wanted to do this move last week anyway. So now I kind of made it solid and did the move last night. So now going on to our game week 3 team selection, and you can see that the majority of the team looks exactly the same as the game week 2. And that's just because most of my options in my starting 11 have been returning, and that's why I don't want to change too much right now. I want to keep a good thing going, so I'm not going to make any changes at all. The only change I did make was Gundogan out, and I brought Ben Rama in, but I think that was quite a good move, to be honest, after Gundogan's 2-point appearances in the previous 2 fixtures. And I think Ben Rama, I think he got 12 points. I mean, you had to kind of bring in a player on form, and when you do see that Crystal Palace fixture, at least I'm not going to be crying if he does end up returning. So already spoken about the bench, so won't kind of go on that too much. I don't have a bench at all. That's kind of the spoiler there. Tsimikas, I don't think is going to start against Chelsea, because Robertson is now back in training, and I think against Chelsea, Klopp's going to want to put out the best team as possible, and I think that's definitely going to be Robertson in that left back slot. But in terms of the rest of the defense, we've got Sanchez in goal against Everton. Not the best fixture in the world considering the form that Calvert-Lewin is in, but I'm just kind of hoping that because it is a home fixture, maybe Brighton can keep a clean sheet in that one, or at least keep it low scoring and keep a high save point percentage. Luke Shaw against Wolves. Now, Wolves have been a little bit of a hit or miss team. They seem to be creating a lot of chances, but not scoring a lot of chances. So I guess Raul Jimenez not really back in the form he is. Adama Traore is not the best finisher in the world. So I'm kind of hoping that that continues against United. And finally, Luke Shaw can get us a clean sheet after blanking in the opening 2. Trent Alexander-Arnold against Chelsea. I'm kind of hoping maybe for a boring top 6 clash here. I think it's going to be quite an entertaining one with Lukaku back in that lineup. Virgil van Dijk, Lukaku, who's going to win that one? I think it's going to be quite a good contest, so check that out this weekend if you guys want to. But I think in terms of Trent, always kind of offers an assisting threat from those set pieces, and with Virgil back in the lineup, he is a constant threat on those corners and those free kicks. The final player in the defense is going to be Luke Ayling, who manages to make his first appearance for the Dayvy FPL team with the fixture against Burnley. Now, with this fixture against Burnley, it is a home fixture for Burnley and away fixture for Leeds, and Leeds have been a little bit leaky at the back, but I'm kind of hoping that they manage to pick up some defensive form from now, at least for the short term, so that if we need to play Luke Ayling, we can in our starting 11. Going on to the midfield, we have some great fixtures. I wouldn't really classify the Wolves away fixture for United as a great fixture, as I think that Wolves have actually kept low-scoring games against Spurs, which they looked quite strong against, and I think they might be a little bit unlucky to concede that penalty, but I do think that Dele Alli took it quite well. So maybe Bruno Fernandez can get a penalty, maybe Greenwood can convert a chance. I'm kind of hoping that they do, because Greenwood right now is still a little bit of a differential in that midfield department. Mo Salah against Chelsea, there's literally no expectations here. Chelsea's defense is just so good, kind of taking from last season. They've replicated that form in the first 2 games of this season. So if Mo Salah scores, that's going to be absolutely fantastic. But considering that I was potentially going to downgrade him to Heung-min Son, to Captain Son, I just saw Spurs this weekend, and maybe I'm second guessing myself. And also the fact that Liverpool have apparently come out and told the Egyptian Federation that Mo Salah won't be playing the red zone fixture, so that he doesn't have to quarantine when he comes back to the UK, and therefore he should be fine for game week 4 against Leeds. I'm not going to take any chances chances there. I'm not going to kind of use a free transfer Mo Salah then. I'm going to just keep him. If he gets something against Chelsea, 100% fine. But if he doesn't, also good. I'm just going to keep him for that Leeds fixture in game week 4, where hopefully he can even be a standout captaincy option. The final two players, we obviously do have Ben Rama here. Spoke about Crystal Palace, just such a good fixture to kind of target, especially because it is a home fixture, and West Ham have looked quite good at the London Stadium. And the final player, Buendia, kind of losing my patience a little bit with him, but he definitely will be on the chopping block for game week 4 as I look to kind of downgrade my Aston Villa assets because their fixtures are looking quite tough, and maybe shift them to a Wolves asset or maybe even a Leeds one. And then going on to the two front players, I've got Danny Ings and I've got Antonio, and both these options look really good for game week 3. Brentford at home for Danny Ings, who I can see honestly scoring against, and I'm just kind of hoping that Danny Ings manages to keep up the scoring form and maybe Aston Villa improve slightly from an attacking point of view, because Aston Villa don't look really great at the moment, attack and defensive wise. Then the final player is going to be Antonio against Crystal Palace. Seems to be in great scoring form. Mentioned before, if he plays, he scores points, and that's why currently Antonio is going to be my captain going into game week 3. So if I did own someone like a Leicester player, I probably would be tempted to captain them against Norwich, but I think right now in terms of captaincy, Antonio looks a great shout. We also have Danny Ings against Brentford, who could continue that scoring form as I mentioned, who also looks like a good option. You then have your Spurs options against a Watford side, who I think they should do well against, especially if Harry Kane could be back in that lineup. Maybe look at Heung-min Son to kind of play off Harry Kane. You also have a player like a Dele Alli, a Lucas Moura. They look like good options. It's just going to kind of be how they manage to set up with Harry Kane back in the lineup, and who's going to drop out of that wing position or that midfield slot to accommodate the English striker. But right now, Antonio is my captain, as I think against the Crystal Palace side that haven't looked that great, I think he definitely has a goal in my opinion, and that's why I think from a safety point of view, Antonio is perfectly fine. I just hope that he doesn't come back to bite us at the end of game week 3. So that's basically wrap the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did and subscribe if you're new and have not subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for the best team or the top 1000 draft or template draft tomorrow, and then probably the ultimate guide coming on Thursday, just because I want to get as much news as possible on this potential international break and what's going to be happening with the isolation or the quarantining. So as I mentioned in the introduction and the talking points, just keep this in the back of your mind when you are considering what transfers to do, as I do think there will be players that will have to isolate, as some of them just really want to play for their country, which is understandable. And also these are kind of World Cup qualifiers, so they are of quite a lot of importance, and not necessarily just friendlies. They are actual qualifiers, so I'm pretty sure most countries want to put up their best side to make sure that their qualification is as easy as possible. But hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. I'll be checking you guys, as I mentioned, for the rest of the content. Please like the video if you did enjoy, subscribe if you have not subscribed yet, and I'll be signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.